Last year, my total investments hit over £100,000 for the first year, and in this video I wanted to explain why it's so hard to make your first £100,000, save it and invest it. But I also wanted to show some of the tips and tricks that you can do to try and get there a little bit quicker. And bearing in mind, while doing this, I still managed to put a deposit down on a flat in London and then also get a buy-to-let development project up in the north as well. So it's not just the cash in the ISA. In a nutshell, the reason why it gets easier the more money you have is because of interest. If you have £1,000 in a bank account and you're getting 10% a year in the stock market, you're only going to get £100 interest in that year. But when you have the £100,000, that becomes 10,000. So the saving becomes quicker and it becomes way easier, and that's why it's such a huge milestone to hit. Now, I think there are three reasons why it's really hard in the first 100k. Now, firstly, it's because you're new to investing, and when you're a little bit unsure of how to invest, what is investing, where should you invest your money, there are loads of questions, and it can be really scary and daunting. Now, it's really simple, and I've got another video that you can check out in the corner that I'll link here around using a stocks and shares ISA, using a really easy to use fund, Vanguard, Fidelity. There are loads out there that I highly recommend that have hundreds of funds, and you have the platform that is essentially the bank account, and then the fund, which is where you invest your money. You pay a really small fee, but it distributes your money equally across hundreds of companies. But a lot of people are put off from investing purely because they don't understand it, and that's why if you're putting your money into a savings account and getting 0.1% interest, unless you are putting away lots of cash every single year, the money's just not going to grow as quick as what you need it to, and you're not going to benefit from interest either. Over the past few years, I've been investing a lot of my money into the S&P 500 and a lot of very specific technology funds in America as well, which have done really well. The tech funds have gained around 30% a year, and the S&P 500, which is the top 500 US companies, usually on average over the past few years has gained about 10% a year, which is really good. So until you make the leap from moving your money out of the 0.1% interest savings account into a stocks and shares ISA, which can gain anywhere from 10 to 30% depending on how well the funds do that you choose, that's when you're going to start seeing that increase and getting over that initial fear and hurdle of putting your money into stocks, which yes can go down, but also over time, as time and history has always shown, it goes up in the long term. And likewise for many rich people, there's a big saying that the rich always get richer, which is very true because their money is invested, and if it's invested, it's growing, and the more money they have, the more it grows. It's really simple maths. Secondly is not benefiting from compound interest in the stock market. But before I go into detail in point two, hit subscribe below and check out all of the personal finance videos on this channel. Subscribing really helps me out and helps grow the audience. There's always room for one more, and it massively helps out. Einstein once said that compounding growth was one of the eighth wonder of the world, and this is how the rich get richer. Now, Warren Buffett is very wealthy and has a net worth of around 122 billion, and he's one of the richest people in the world. But he started investing with $6,000 when he was just 15 years old. And the reason why he has so much wealth is because he's just spent lots of time in the market. Every single year he's been getting that 10, 15, 20%, whatever it is, and over time it grows and grows and grows. And when you look at a typical compounding curve, it kind of starts slow. It's like YouTube growth, and then it continues, and then all of a sudden it really starts to spike and shoot up, and that is exactly what's happened with compounding on his net worth. With where he is now, getting 10% interest on his $114 billion wealth would mean that he's getting an extra $11.4 billion every single year, which is the same amount of money that took him almost 66 years of his life to get to. So that really shows you the power of time. I've seen this on my own personal journey, starting back in 2015 with £10,000, and now having since grown it to over £300,000 invested across a pension, stocks and shares ISAs, and some of that has been taken out and put into my property development business as well, and it's really growing nicely over time. Now I understand and appreciate the power of compound interest and growth. You can test this out yourself by going to Google and type in compound interest calculator. Now, if you were saving £200 a month over the next 20 years and you got an average of 10% in the stock market every single year, you'd have £151,000 back in your pocket. But as you can see, most of that comes from the later years, and it just gets easier and easier to make that money across the full 25-year spectrum. The third reason why the first 100k is the hardest is because you need money to invest. Now, when you're starting off and you have a really small amount, it's really hard to start putting that money away every single month. They say that you should always build up an emergency pot of money first. Now, this is money that you can easily and quickly access, and it should be anywhere anywhere from 3 to 6 months of your monthly living expenses and costs, so that if you were made redundant or if there was an issue, then you could live for those 6 months. And that's what the emergency fund is all about. So you have to get that out of the way first, and then you can start thinking about locking money away, because if you're investing money, it has to be locked away for a minimum of 3 to 5 years. And if you're in a situation where you're not really saving money at the moment, then the easiest thing to do is take a look at your current finances. You don't necessarily have to get a promotion, a pay rise, or try and get a new job out there that pays more money. Instead, just look at what you have today. Look at your expenses. I track my money every single month on a money manager app, and I look at what comes in and what goes out. And that way it makes it a little bit easier to see month on month, where is my money going? What am I wasting money on? What am I usefully spending money on? And that way I can start to chop and change my finances, and even just release an extra £50 to £100 a month, and then you can then use that to invest. So the easiest way to start investing money right now is look at what you currently spend, cut down on some of the luxuries and takeaways and whatever it is that you spend money on, and then put that money aside. That's the easiest and quickest way to do it. If you've got a really expensive PCP car right now, hand it back in and get a cheaper car, because if you're going to be spending £600 a month on a car and then you get a cheap one that's £200 a month, then that extra £400 again can go into a stocks and shares ISA every single month. It can compound, it can grow, it can get interest every single year, and for the sake of a few years of sacrifice, can really pay off in the long term. So now we've explored why the first 100k is the hardest, let's look at the things you can do to improve your own finances and make that first 100k a little bit easier. I've got 3 areas where you could improve your own finances and hit the almighty 6 figures in your investments. So firstly is focusing on a mixture of 2 things. Now, we've already covered about lowering your expenses. Now, I can guarantee this is probably one of the easiest ways to find some extra cash and start to save that and put that away, just by looking at your expenses, tracking it and putting some extra money away that you don't actually need to spend your money on every single month. Now, you could look at option A, which is improving your income. Now, you could shop around for different jobs, try and get a promotion and earn more money overall, but also be aware of lifestyle creep. It's very easy to get a bonus or a promotion or a new job or whatever it is that earns you more money, and then your whole lifestyle then gets more expensive. You get a more expensive car on lease, or you then go out more and eat more expensive meals. It's this scope increase that happens in lifestyle. So if you can still have the same lifestyle, spend the same amount of money, or if not less, but also then improve your income as well, you're tackling it from a double angle here, because you're increasing the income, lowering the expenses, and it's that delta in the middle that is going to enable you to save more money in the long term, rather than earn more money, spend more money, earn more money, spend more money. It just doesn't help. Even if you did this just for the next 5 years, that short-term sacrifice is going to really help for a long-term gain. And a lot of people do this. They trade in really expensive Mercedes for a really cheap Nissan car, for example, and they just do it for a few years because the money they save will help them in the long term and enable them to buy an asset which will then pay for the car in the future. Secondly is start a small business or side hustle. Since the pandemic, loads of people have been way more entrepreneurial, creating side gigs, side hustles, starting their own businesses, even going full-time away from the day job, which is really inspirational. On the other hand, people might not want hugely time-consuming side gigs and really enjoy their main job. I started this YouTube channel back at the start of the pandemic, and it's since grown to over 23,000 subscribers, and last year in the company accounts I filed over £32,000 worth of turnover in the business, which is really good. But it's not a full-time thing. I just film 2 videos a week, spend a few hours editing, and it's not a huge drag of my time. It's a nice little side business that hopefully will grow over time. You could do a little bit of freelancing on the side, buying items at a car boot sale, selling it on eBay, buying bulk warehouse items from Alibaba or from China and then selling it on Amazon. You could create craft items and sell it on Etsy. You could walk dogs in your local area. The list is endless, and it doesn't have to be this huge new tech startup. It could be something really simple that just adds a few pennies or pounds in your bank account every single month. The possibilities are endless, but by doing this, you don't have to focus on getting a new job, trying to get a promotion, earning more money, but instead just having that side hustle means that all the money that you make through that can just be invested into a stocks and shares ISA, and you don't have to think about how to manage all of your current finances because you treat the two things completely separately. All of the money that I make within the YouTube channel is just reinvested back into my property development group, where I can put it onto the next buy-to-let project or the next refurbishment within the company itself. It's just all reinvested. And finally, assuming that you have some money to invest, the next big thing you can do is put your money into riskier funds. Now, For those people that are starting off, a lot of people tend to go for the low to medium risk funds, or kind of somewhere in the middle. But you shouldn't be afraid of looking at higher risk funds. Now, what you don't want to do is put all of your money onto Bitcoin or Tesla because it's volatile. You're putting all of your eggs into one basket, but by spreading it out and putting it into the S&P 500 or more NASDAQ stocks, which are more of the technology-focused US companies, the higher risk, it does mean that yes, it can go down more. This year, I've seen a 36% drop in one of my funds, which can be quite scary to some. But if you look at all of the stock market over time it tends to go up over a long period. So I'm not too worried about the drop this year because I know at some point it will recover, and it has been that price previously to get to the point where it has dropped. So I'm not too concerned. But if you want to try and earn more money, put it into more riskier fund. You don't have to put all of the money in. Just take a little bit of the money that you currently have, put it into a riskier fund and see what kind of gains that you could get in a single year. And that way you can potentially go from 5% interest a year up to 10%, 15%, 30%, whatever it is that you're investing into. There is a risk that a fund could take a tumble, but if you're, again, spreading it across multiple companies, you can try and balance out some of that impact. And if you're investing in solid companies that have really good prospects, like Apple, Amazon, Facebook, where they're inventing, they're innovative, they're making healthy profits, they're growing, they're having all of these amazing ideas, then there is something within that, and that's why they keep growing and doing really well, because they're innovating, creating new awesome products and services, compared to chucking it into a random crypto that you've never heard of that is really, really sketchy. There's a big difference there. So if you're investing into companies that are highly backed and really innovative, it's not likely that they're going to have this huge crash because they're so strong as a company. I get it, it's hard. It's hard to find ways to save more money, to make more money, but also getting over that initial fear of investing if you've never really done it before. But I guarantee if you stick with it and create some really healthy habits around saving, it's going to take a little bit of time, but you'll get there to the first 100K over time. And by the time you hit the first 100K, you'll then start thinking about the first million, because I can guarantee the next 100K is going to be easier and easier and easier. And it goes back to what we said at the very beginning of the video. If you're getting 10% on 100K, that's £10,000 a year, which is almost a third of the average UK salary. So it really starts to snowball and compound from there onwards. If you're investing your money, then you'll need to understand the basics of a stocks and shares ISA and how to find really high performing funds, which is why this video here, which is my video all about the stocks and shares ISA Vanguard platform, will really help you understand the difference between a platform, a fund, where to find the highest performing funds, and just generally where to put your money and how to invest it. So this video will really help you. So click here and I will see you in the next video.